The term deep state is dismissed as a conspiracy theory by the same institutions it describes. But the concept has a formal academic and policy history long predating its political use. It refers to networks of officials in intelligence agencies, the military, law enforcement, and key regulatory bodies who maintain institutional power and pursue institutional interests regardless of which administration occupies the White House. This is not theoretical. It is documented in congressional records, declassified CIA files, federal court cases, and the published memoirs of the officials involved. Every president, regardless of party, has described the same experience, arriving in office with a mandate for change and discovering that the permanent bureaucracy has mechanisms to resist, delay, or redirect that change. This is sometimes defended as protecting institutional knowledge and constitutional continuity. Sometimes it is. And sometimes it is career officials protecting institutional interests and policy preferences that voters explicitly rejected in the election that just occurred. The tension between elected officials and permanent bureaucrats is as old as the Republic. But it has intensified dramatically in the intelligence age. The intelligence community presents a specific problem for democratic accountability. Its operations are classified. Its budgets are partially secret. Its employees cannot be questioned publicly about their activities. Its institutional culture prizes secrecy above transparency. And it employs people whose careers span multiple administrations, who develop institutional loyalties that can supersede political loyalties, and who have access to information that no elected official, including the president, sees in its entirety. This is not a flaw in the design. For much of the community, it is the design. Presidents are dependent on the intelligence community for their understanding of the world. The CIA, NSA, DIA, and others prepare the briefings that inform presidential decisions. They decide what information to include in those briefings and how to frame it. They have the ability to withhold information, emphasize certain threats over others, and present analysis in ways that favor certain policy conclusions. A president who does not understand intelligence analysis, or who trusts their briefers completely, is potentially making decisions based on a picture of the world that has been shaped before it reached them. The Iran-Contra affair of the 1980s is the clearest documented case of deep state operations in recent American history. National Security Council staffers, operating from within the White House, ran a covert foreign policy operation that was explicitly prohibited by Congress. They sold arms to Iran in violation of an embargo. They used the proceeds to fund Nicaraguan rebels in violation of a congressional ban. They did this without the knowledge of most cabinet officials and, the administration eventually claimed, without the knowledge of the president. 11 administration officials were convicted. The operation had functioned as a government within a government. The FBI's COINTELPRO operation, which ran from 1956 to 1971, is the most documented example of a domestic law enforcement agency operating entirely outside its authorized mandate and outside any meaningful oversight. The Church Committee found that the FBI had targeted over 2,000 domestic organizations, conducted warrantless surveillance of American citizens, sent anonymous threatening letters, and facilitated violence against political activists. None of this was authorized by any president. None of it was approved by Congress. It was the institutional judgment of an unelected director that these organizations needed to be destroyed. The NSA mass surveillance programs revealed by Edward Snowden in 2013 operated for years without meaningful congressional oversight, despite being technically reviewed by a secret court. Senior NSA officials testified before Congress in ways that were later shown to be false. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper told a Senate committee in March 2013 that the NSA did not collect data on millions of Americans. 3 months later, Snowden's revelations proved this was false. Clapper was not prosecuted for lying to Congress. He was not fired. He served in his position until the end of the Obama administration. The revolving door between the intelligence community and the private sector creates a permanent network of interests that spans government and industry. Former CIA directors move to consulting firms that contract with the CIA. Former NSA officials move to cybersecurity companies that sell to the NSA. Former Pentagon officials moved to defense contractors whose contracts they previously oversaw. These transitions are legal and largely disclosed. They create an extended deep state network that maintains influence over government policy through formal and informal channels long after individuals leave official positions. The deep state's most powerful tool is not coercion. It is the selective disclosure of classified information. Senior officials within intelligence and law enforcement agencies can leak classified information to journalists to advance institutional interests, undermine political appointees, or shape public narratives. These leaks are rarely investigated seriously and almost never prosecuted. They are, however, extraordinarily effective. An anonymous leak from a senior intelligence official, carefully placed with the right journalist, can destroy a political career, kill a policy initiative, or launch an investigation. This power is real, it is exercised regularly, and it is completely unaccountable. The existence of permanent bureaucratic power is not inherently sinister. Experienced career officials provide continuity, institutional memory, and protection against the more destructive impulses of any given administration. The problem is accountability. Elected officials are accountable to voters. Career officials are accountable to their agencies, their professional networks, and ultimately to themselves. When those institutional interests align with the public interest, the system works. When they diverge, there is no mechanism for the public to correct it. That gap between institutional interest and democratic accountability is what people mean when they say deep state. And it is real. Understanding the deep state is not about paranoia or conspiracy thinking. It is about recognizing that democratic governance is not automatic. It requires active, informed citizens demanding accountability from institutions that have powerful incentives to resist it. Every major accountability victory in American history has come from outside the institutions: journalists, whistleblowers, activists, and occasionally politicians willing to take institutional risk. The deep state is real in the sense that permanent bureaucratic power exists and pursues institutional interests. What is also real is the democratic tradition of holding that power accountable. This is the Redacted. Stay informed.